After losing the boat in an accident, an unconscious Jen washes ashore on a remote island. When she wakes, she spots her friend Brad nearby and rushes to him, only to find a large piece of coral embedded in his stomach. Panicked, she screams for help but no one answers. Desperate, she grabs the flare gun from his vest and drags him away from the shoreline. She carefully removes the coral and presses fabric against the wound to stop the bleeding. Brad barely reacts. His only words are cryptic. "Did you see it?" Believing he needs water, Jen races into the jungle, finds a coconut, and smashes it open with a rock. But when she returns, coconut in hand, Brad is motionless. He's already dead. Jen begins exploring the island, but walking along the beach only leads her in a full circle back to where she started. Turning to the jungle, she discovers old, weathered belongings scattered around. Desperate, she calls for help again, but there's no response. Searching a nearby bag, she rummages through its contents and finds some medicine. Jen rummages through the cooler and finds several sealed soda bottles. Nearby, hidden beneath a layer of leaves, she uncovers more items, a small metal box containing matches. Suddenly, a strange noise catches her attention. She follows the sound to a tree and peers inside, only to be startled as a bird bursts out and flies away. Shaken, she returns to Brad's body, covering him with large leaves. As the sun begins to set, she searches for shelter. Just before the rain starts, she wraps herself in the sailcloth and sets out items to collect water. The next morning, Jen discovers countless dead fish scattered along the shore. She gathers them into a bag but is stunned to find a lifeless shark nearby, its body covered in deep, gruesome gashes. Using rocks, she removes the fish heads and stores the bodies in the cooler for later. While searching another bag, she comes across a water-damaged notebook. She flips through its pages, but the writing has been completely erased. Tucked inside, she finds a photograph of a couple, and a wave of loneliness washes over her. While exploring the island again, Jen stumbles upon piles of rocks and a cross-shaped branch. Realizing they mark graves, inspired, she digs a hole in the sand and places Brad's decaying body inside, covering it with leaves and sand. She finishes the grave with a wooden marker bearing his initial, Vac Knight. She hangs the sailcloth, noticing gashes that strangely resemble those on the shark. Using the matches, she starts a fire and cooks the fish, determined to survive another night. The next day, Jen is horrified to find Brad's body missing, his grave filled with blood. Realizing something dangerous is out there, she sharpens a branch into a spear. Using a rock, she also sets up a log for support, allowing her to sit and watch the jungle as night falls. Despite her efforts to stay alert, exhaustion takes over, and she drifts off. In the middle of the night, a strange noise startles her awake. But seeing nothing in the trees, she convinces herself it was just the fire. The next day, Jen spots items floating nearby and wades into the water to retrieve them. Before heading back, she dives to check for more and is stunned to see a mysterious hole in the ocean floor. Fear grips her and she quickly swims back to shore. Among her recovered belongings, she finds a suitcase filled with clothes and changes into something warmer. Grateful for the extra protection, that night, Jen examines the box again and finds photographs of its deceased owners. Suddenly, she hears a plane overhead and sprints to the shore, firing a flare in desperation. But the plane doesn't notice, and as the flare sinks into the sea, it briefly illuminates the eerie silhouette of a towering creature. Terrified, Jen rushes back, grabs her spear, and hides deep in the jungle. Moments later, the monster steps onto the island, searching the bushes. Holding her breath, Jen stays hidden until it finally leaves without attacking. The next morning, Jen finds her camp in ruins, the monster having left a trail of destruction. As she gathers the scattered belongings, she notices something chilling: the creature's eyes lurking in the background of the old photos. Desperate to escape, she stuffs Brad's and her life vests into the suitcase, hoping to use it as a raft. She drags it to the water and tries to stay afloat, but it's too unstable. Frustrated, she hurls the suitcase back onto the sand in defeat. Before sunset, Jen hides inside a hollow tree for safety. In the middle of the night, she wakes to the sound of the monster returning. It grabs her log and starts rolling it, seemingly relying on it for support. Jen stays completely still, focusing on staying silent and shielding her head. The creature growls and shakes the log repeatedly, but after a tense, agonizing wait, it eventually loses interest and wanders away, leaving Jen trembling in the darkness. Days pass as Jen struggles to survive fishing during the day and hiding in a hole at night. After much practice, she finally manages to kill a small shark with her spear. Exhausted, she hangs it on a tree and falls asleep in a hiding spot, only to wake to the sound of the monster taking the shark away. Later, the waves wash another body onto the shore. When Jen checks, she's horrified to find its face mangled and its legs missing, clear signs of the monster's attack. She hangs the body on the tree and hides in her hole, determined to stay awake and observe. Soon, the monster arrives, yanking the corpse down and devouring it. Just then, Jen hears a plane overhead and gasps, but she can't risk moving. The monster lingers near her hiding spot before returning to the ocean. When it's finally safe, the plane is already gone. The next day, Jen uses the sailcloth, belts, and rope to craft a hammock, suspending it high in the trees. From this vantage point, she can better survey the area while staying out of the monster's reach. That night, as she rests in her hammock, she spots the creature moving through the bushes. Suddenly, it grabs the ropes and starts yanking, trying to bring her down. Jen screams, struggling as the hammock sways wildly before giving way, sending her tumbling to the ground. She scrambles to her feet and runs, but the monster pursues her, leaping in and out of the water to close the distance. Just as she thinks she's doomed, it lands in front of her. Terrified, she stabs it with her spear, but the creature retaliates, throwing her onto the sand. It strikes her again, sending her crashing into the water. Before it can finish her off, a sudden thunderclap echoes across the island, startling the beast. Taking advantage of the moment, Jen climbs into a tree, deciding to endure the rain despite the discomfort. In the morning, Jen examines her leg and finds a nasty wound. As she washes up and changes clothes, she spots a life raft floating nearby. Without hesitation, she dives into the water and swims toward it. Inside, she finds two survivors: her boyfriend Lucas and Brad's girlfriend, Mia. She helps them reach the shore, and the couple embraces tightly, relieved to be reunited. Jen shares her fish and sodas while urgently trying to warn them about the monster. She insists they must use the raft to escape, even showing them a photograph and breaking the news of Brad's death. However, Lucas and Mia dismiss her fears, convinced she's hallucinating from isolation. They refuse to get back on the raft, saying their time adrift nearly drove them mad. Determined, Jen announces she gathered more food and borrows Lucas's Swiss knife. As she opens it to clean the fish, she notices dried blood on the blade, making her suspicious. She tries once more to convince them to leave, but the conversation escalates into an argument, ending with Lucas yelling at her in frustration. While Lucas and Mia are distracted, Jen quietly gathers her belongings and loads them onto the raft. She pushes it into the ocean, desperate to escape. However, her friends notice and rush to stop her. Lucas grabs Jen, and in the struggle, she kicks Mia in the face. Enraged, Mia retaliates by knocking Jen out with an oar. By the time Jen regains consciousness, night has fallen. To her horror, she finds herself tied to a tree. Desperate, she begs her friends to untie her, but Lucas refuses, and Mia walks away to give them privacy. Lucas starts venting his frustrations, criticizing Jen's attitude. He recalls how much fun he had on the boat with his friends, yet she was never satisfied and even talked about breaking up with him. Jen knows this isn't the time to discuss their relationship, but Lucas continues, his voice rising with anger. He reminds her that she has no home, no money, and no life without him, insisting she had no right to abandon him on the island after everything he had done for her. As Jen persists, saying they need to leave and talk later, Lucas coldly remarks that she sounds just like his friend Zach, but ominously refuses to say what happened to him. Meanwhile, as Mia walks along the shore, she notices fish pieces floating in the water. Suddenly, a chilling scream pierces the night. Lucas and Jen hear it, and Lucas grabs a torch, sprinting to help. He arrives to a horrifying sight: the monster attacking Mia. Desperate, he strikes it with the torch, but the creature easily shoves him aside. Then, without hesitation, it leaps into the sea, dragging Mia with it. By the time Jen finally frees herself from the ropes, it's too late. Blood remains in the water. The next morning, Lucas finally agrees to leave the island with Jen, determined to be prepared. They work together to catch and cook a large supply of fish, using the last match to start a fire. With provisions ready, they load their belongings into the raft and set off. As they drift into the open water, Jen notices multiple bloodstains inside the raft, unsettling her. Lucas rows steadily until he suddenly spots the creature swimming beneath them. Its claws lash out, trying to grab him, but he quickly ducks inside, and Jen slams the cover shut. The monster refuses to give up, scratching furiously at the raft's bottom. After several violent blows that shake the entire structure, it punches a hole through and thrusts its head inside. Jen reacts instantly, kicking it back while Lucas fires the flare gun. The first shot misses, but the second lands directly in the creature's mouth. Seizing the moment, Jen stabs it with the spear, forcing it back into the water. For a brief moment, they think they're safe until the monster reaches through the raft again and drags Jen underwater, pulling her toward its lair. She struggles desperately, then remembers Lucas's dagger and plunges it into the beast. Roaring in pain, it releases her and swims away. Just as Jen resurfaces, she sees Lucas diving in to save her, but before he can reach her, the monster returns, grabs him at the last second, and drags him into its underwater hole. Screaming in anguish, Jen swims back to shore, exhausted and shaken. As she stumbles onto the sand, she notices a faint spark still glowing in the fire they had put out. Wasting no time, she works quickly to rekindle it, coaxing the embers into strong, steady flames. Determined, she grabs the notebook and writes a letter detailing everything, just in case she doesn't survive. But Jen refuses to give up. She has a plan. She sharpens multiple spears, gathers wood and leaves, and digs, with traps in the sand. While digging, she uncovers a skeleton and decides to use its bones as weapons. As night falls, the monster emerges from the water, prowling through the jungle, following the scent of fish. The moment it reaches the bait, Jen ignites several pyres, surrounding the creature in flames. With her spear in hand, she lunges forward, stabbing it once before retreating behind a tree. Enraged, the monster searches for her. Jen waits for the perfect moment when its back is turned, then strikes again with a sharpened bone, but the creature reacts instantly, knocking her down with a powerful blow. Undeterred, she stabs it again, only to be hit so hard she is sent flying across the sand. Despite the pain, Jen sees the monster bleeding and writhing in agony. Fueled by determination, she keeps attacking, stabbing relentlessly with every bone shard she can grab. The beast fights back, pushing her to the ground. As it grabs her legs and drags her closer, it lifts her by the face, ready to end her. With one last burst of strength, Jen pulls out a sharp bone and repeatedly drives it into a wound she created earlier. The monster shrieks in agony, releasing her, but not before slashing her one final time. Weak and barely able to move, it stumbles. Seizing the moment, Jen dashes to the beach, grabbing more spears. The monster catches up but collapses onto the sand, exhausted. Without hesitation, she drives her spear into its chest over and over until it finally dies. Panting, she cuts through its tough hide and severs its head, taking it as proof of her survival. As the jungle burns behind her, Jen makes her way toward the raft, ready to leave the nightmare behind. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss more videos like this. Thanks for watching.